Imagine this. You're stuck in gridlock traffic, horns blaring, your navigation spinning out alternative routes that all look equally hopeless. And then, with a low hum, your car unfolds wings, rises above the chaos, and takes to the sky. Science fiction? Not anymore. The dream of flying cars, long a symbol of a future just out of reach, is finally at our doorstep. But is this really the dawn of a new era in personal mobility? Or is the promise of airborne vehicles just another high-tech mirage, shrouded in hype and hidden pitfalls? Today, we're lifting the veil on flying cars. With promises of freedom from urban congestion, the ultimate status symbol, and a multi-trillion-dollar industry on the horizon, the race to conquer the skies above our cities is heating up. But what's really going on? Who's leading the charge? And most importantly, are we ready for this leap? It's tempting to picture the future as a Jetsons-style utopia, where everyone swaps their traffic jams for panoramic views and lands on their office roof in minutes. The truth, as always, is far more complicated and a lot more thrilling. Let's rewind. The idea of cars that fly has gripped our collective imagination for nearly a century. From the pages of pulp science fiction to grand predictions at World's Fairs, flying cars have become a timeless pop culture trope, a shorthand for the arrival of the future. Yet, it seemed every generation was told that the flying car was just around the corner. Again and again, reality clashed with fantasy. Technologies fell short, regulations tangled innovators in red tape, prototypes dazzled at expos, and then disappeared. But fast forward to now, and something has changed. Not only are multiple companies around the world unveiling real, working vehicles that blur the line between car and aircraft, but for the first time, they're passing essential regulatory milestones. Let's start with one of the boldest players rewriting the rules of personal mobility, Klein Vision. In 2021, this Slovakian startup achieved something that sent shockwaves through the aviation and automotive worlds. Their aircar, a sleek two-seat vehicle that can transform from car to aircraft in just minutes, earned a certificate of airworthiness from the Slovak Transport Authority. This wasn't just a publicity stunt. The aircar had already undergone 70 hours of rigorous flight testing, over 200 takeoffs and landings, and even completed a 35-minute intercity flight from Nitra to Bratislava. It wasn't a CGI demo, it was real. And the ambition doesn't stop there. This year, Klein Vision is preparing its next iteration, the Aircar 2, a production-ready prototype poised to enter pilot testing and, potentially, the commercial market. The specs are impressive. Imagine driving at 200 kilometers per hour on the highway, then, with a flick of a switch, tail and wings extending automatically, you soar through the air at 250 kilometers per hour for up to 1,000 kilometers, all for a price tag projected between $800,000 and $1 million. Stefan Klein, the visionary behind Klein Vision, called it a lifelong dream to bring the freedom of flight into the hands of everyday people. It's an audacious pitch, and for the first time it doesn't feel like empty words. With the launch of our production prototype, Klein says, we are one step closer to transforming how the world moves, merging the road and the sky into a new dimension of personal mobility. But Klein Vision isn't alone. Around the world, a new generation of startups and legacy giants are racing to conquer the skies. In the US, Aleph Aeronautics made headlines when its Model A secured a Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, Special Airworthiness Certification, a government green light that few thought possible just a decade ago. Japan's SkyDrive Inc. is preparing its SD-05 flying car for a dazzling debut at the 2025 World Expo in Osaka. Joby Aviation is gearing up for commercial air taxi launches as soon as 2025. And established aerospace players, from Boeing to Airbus, are pouring billions into electric vertical takeoff and landing eVTOL tech. The shift is seismic. According to Morgan Stanley, the flying car market could be worth a staggering $1.5 trillion by 2040. Sergey Brin, Google co-founder and a silent but powerful backer of new mobility, put it bluntly, flying cars could significantly reduce commute times and improve urban mobility. Even NASA has jumped in, working on specialized air traffic management systems to safely guide hundreds, perhaps thousands of new vehicles through city airspace. Yet for all this momentum, there's a lot of noise out there. Hype is everywhere. Every few months, social media explodes with clips of shimmering prototypes, celebrity investors, and lofty promises. But look closer, and serious questions emerge. Is the technology really ready? Who will be able to afford it? What about safety, environmental impact, and the real-world chaos of adding a third dimension to already stressed urban landscapes. To cut through the noise, let's break down the facts and see where promise meets peril. First, the tech. Today's flying cars fall into two broad categories: dual-mode vehicles like the air car, which can drive on highways and then take off from airports or specialized runways, and eVTOLs, short for electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, which can take off and land almost anywhere. Think urban rooftops or small pads. The air car's design, for instance, is a marvel of engineering: wings and tail sections that fold seamlessly into a road-legal car body. It's not a fantasy anymore, it's a working prototype. Meanwhile, eVTOLs like those from Volocopter and Joby Aviation promise quiet, all-electric, rotor-powered flight designed for dense cities. But here's the thing: none of these technologies are truly mature yet. Electric batteries remain a major hurdle. Most eVTOLs today can only fly for 20 to 30 minutes per charge, limiting their use to short hops. Longer journeys, say city to city or cross-country, still require fuel-burning or hybrid systems, with all the complications that entails: weight, cost, maintenance, and environmental impact. Let's talk cost. The Aircar 2 is set to launch at nearly $1 million. That's more than a Lamborghini, and you'll need both a driver's license and a pilot's license to operate it legally. Even the cheaper, sportier pilot licenses set you back thousands of dollars and weeks of training. If flying cars are to fulfill their promise of mobility for everyone, that's a high bar to clear. Then, the headache of regulations. As the FAA puts it, integrating flying cars requires addressing safety, air traffic management, and infrastructure challenges. While some agencies like Europe's EASA and the US's FAA have begun crafting rules for these new vehicles, most of the world's regulatory systems aren't ready for personal aviation at scale. Simple questions: where can you take off and land? Who gets priority in congested airspace? Remain unanswered. Think about this. It took more than a century for cars to become so safe, easy, and regulated that almost anyone could drive them. Can we expect the same for flying cars overnight? And let's not forget public safety. Crashes on the highway are tragic enough. Now add a vertical dimension, and the stakes get higher. As Elon Musk points out, the primary challenge for flying cars is safety and noise pollution in urban environments. Imagine the risk of mechanical failures, navigation errors, or simple human mistakes, not on a deserted runway, but over a packed city center. One mishap could spell disaster. Noise is another sleeping giant. As anyone who's ever lived near an airport knows, even small planes can create deafening roars. Electric motors could help, but rotor-driven eVTOLs still produce significant noise, potentially making city centers unbearable if they become widespread. Early test flights in cities like Singapore and Dubai have wowed audiences, but it's one thing to watch a demo, and quite another to live with a constant buzz overhead. Beneath all this, there are deeper questions about who really benefits from flying cars. Kevin DeGood, a transportation policy expert, warns, flying cars will likely exacerbate existing inequalities and environmental degradation. Will these vehicles become the ultimate plaything of the wealthy, a way to skip traffic while the rest of us stay gridlocked below? And what about the carbon footprint? Are we headed for a future where city skies are filled with high-polluting luxury rides? Socially and environmentally, the utopian vision starts to look a lot messier. Building the infrastructure for flying cars, vertiports, charging pads, air traffic control systems won't happen overnight. In fact, it could take decades and at immense cost. Yet the excitement is undeniable. Innovators are not backing down. In Japan, all eyes are on SkyDrive's SD-05, set to make its commercial debut at the Osaka World Expo. In the US, Aleph Aeronautics is pushing ahead after winning the FAA's blessing. Meanwhile, legacy aviation titans are quietly investing billions in R&D, betting that the payoff, for a few or perhaps for everyone, could be huge. Morgan Stanley isn't alone in its bullishness. The flying car market represents a potential $1.5 trillion revenue opportunity by 2040. So, where are we really? Is the flying car about to change everything, or is it destined for the same fate as jetpacks and hoverboards, a dazzling demo, then disappointment? Technological and regulatory barriers remain daunting. Even if the prototypes work, mass market adoption could be decades away. And yet, the journey's only just begun. The next generation of flying cars is rolling out for test flights this very year. Will they overcome the hurdles of battery limits, noise, and sky-high costs? Can regulators put in place the systems and laws to make personal flights safe and accessible? Or will the dream stall again, this time just meters off the ground? In a moment, we'll dig deeper into the race for the skies, the money, the politics, and the critical breakthroughs that could seal the fate of flying cars for good. But before we go there, ask yourself, if personal flight was finally within reach, would you take off or stay grounded? So, with the dawn of a new era potentially upon us, let's look ahead. What does the future hold if the flying car dream actually takes flight? What are the far-reaching consequences, both thrilling and daunting, of letting vehicles soar above our cities and countrysides? First, imagine a world where commuting is no longer bottlenecked by city streets and highways. Sergey Brin, co-founder of Google, once said, "Flying cars could significantly reduce commute times and improve urban mobility." In this scenario, hour-long commutes between distant suburbs and city centers could shrink to mere minutes. A suburban home, once isolated by an exhausting drive, suddenly becomes no more inconvenient than living a few blocks from your workplace, if you can afford it. But this vision is not without its risks. As Elon Musk pointed out, the primary challenge for flying cars is safety and noise pollution in urban environments. Consider hundreds or even thousands of vehicles buzzing above your head at all hours. The initial novelty could quickly become a daily nuisance, or worse, a safety hazard. One small malfunction, pilot error, or simple miscommunication could send a vehicle plummeting into a crowded area. The margins for error are razor thin and the stakes sky high. Enter urban air traffic control, a system still in its infancy. NASA is developing an air traffic management system tailored for urban air mobility, but scaling this up for mass adoption is a colossal challenge. Will we one day look up and see digital corridors crisscrossing the sky, invisible highways policed by a blend of software and human controllers? Or could we instead face a chaotic Wild West sky riddled with risks? Regulatory bodies like the FAA and the European EASA are working feverishly to build frameworks for this airborne future. The FAA says, integrating flying cars requires addressing safety, air traffic management, and infrastructure challenges. Without robust rules, flying cars may never move beyond tightly controlled pilots and elite luxury markets. Let's not forget the environmental impact. On the one hand, electric VTOLs and hybrid flying cars have the potential to reduce surface congestion and pollution. On the other, current electric battery technology allows for flight times of just 20 to 30 minutes. To support everyday commuting, battery life and charging infrastructure must improve dramatically. Otherwise, flying cars risk creating a class of wealthy commuters who merely shift their environmental burden to the skies. And then there's the social dynamic. Kevin DeGood, a public policy expert, warns, flying cars will likely exacerbate existing inequalities and environmental degradation. In their early years, flying cars will be playthings for the wealthy. With a starting price of $800,000 to $1 million for models like the Air Car, and the need for both a driver's and pilot's license, the dream will remain out of reach for most. Will the skies become just another avenue for the rich to escape traffic jams, while the majority remain earthbound? Still, the lure is undeniable. The Morgan Stanley research team projects that the global flying car market could be worth $1.5 trillion by 2040. That's incentive enough for startups and industry titans to keep pouring billions into development. Companies like SkyDrive Inc. are planning high-profile showcases, such as flying car demonstrations at the 2025 World Expo in Osaka. Meanwhile, Joby Aviation is targeting 2025 to launch commercial air taxi services, and Aleph Aeronautics has already secured special airworthiness certification for its Model A. So, what does this truly mean for you? Is this just a spectacle for tech expos and billionaires, or could this technology actually touch your life? Let's break it down. Even if you're not planning to spend $1 million to glide above the morning rush, flying cars carry lessons and opportunities that will ripple through society. First, pay attention to the gradual revolution in personal mobility. The lines between car, drone, and small aircraft are blurring. This doesn't only mean new ways to travel, it means new industries, jobs, and opportunities. For example, if you're a student, engineer, or tech worker, the rise of electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, eVTOLs, could spark a whole new sector, similar to the way the birth of the internet did in the 1990s. Second, the expansion of flying cars brings regulatory and safety conversations to the public stage. Urban planning, law, and even insurance policies will have to adapt. The need for specialized pilot licenses, which cost $4,000 to $8,000 just for a basic sport pilot ticket, might encourage new forms of online and VR training. Cities will face pressure to zone for vertical takeoff pads, charging stations, and perhaps even sky-specific police and emergency response units. It's also a call to action for all of us. As these vehicles approach reality, citizens and consumers can have a voice in how rules are written. Do you want strict limitations to protect privacy and peace, or looser guidelines to encourage innovation? These are debates that will shape the next decade, and they won't be settled behind closed doors. For tech enthusiasts, early adopters, or those simply daydreaming about a traffic-free future, it's worth tracking which regions, companies, and governments are leading the charge. Will the US, Europe, or Asia set the standard for flying car infrastructure? Which companies are making headway in battery tech, safety protocols, and affordable models? If you're an investor or entrepreneur, these are the frontiers where fortunes, and perhaps major societal shifts, will be made. Yet, the greatest lesson may be about the pace and reality of innovation. The story of the flying car is a case study in how dreams collide with complexity. We expect technology to move fast, but progress is often measured in incremental, painstaking steps. Regulatory victories, such as Aleph Aeronautics' FAA certification or Klein Vision's aircar attaining airworthiness in Slovakia, are more than just paperwork. They are signals that change is coming, slowly but steadily. Now let's bring it all home. Can the new wave of flying cars genuinely overcome their hurdles and revolutionize personal mobility, or will the dream stall just short of reality? The answer is, it's happening, but not as quickly or as universally as sci-fi would have us believe. The prototype flights, regulatory milestones, and eye-popping investments of the past few years prove the concept is real. The Aircar's intercity flight, SkyDrive's upcoming showcase, and the FAA's ongoing rule writing demonstrate resolve and progress. But for most people, flying cars won't be landing in their driveways anytime soon. The hurdles, cost, noise, safety, infrastructure, and mass market appeal remain stubbornly high. Early flying cars will likely serve as costly business jets for executives, VIP taxis, or specialty emergency vehicles. Only after years of refinement, falling costs, and resolved regulatory and environmental issues will they stand a chance of widespread adoption. Remember, a similar arc played out with the automobile, the airplane, and the smartphone. Each began as an expensive, risky novelty, gradually becoming safer, cheaper, and indispensable. The flying car is on that path now, moving from dream to experimental prototype, and from prototype to limited reality. The next chapter depends as much on regulation, public interest, and infrastructure as on raw engineering. Before we wrap up, here's a secret fact. While the current wave of flying cars seems futuristic, the dream dates back further than most people realize. In 1949, inventor Moulton Taylor actually debuted the Aerocar, a fully roadable airplane that earned FAA certification and could switch from car to plane in under 10 minutes. Only 6 were ever built, but they set the stage for the innovation we're witnessing today. So, what should you do? Stay curious, follow the headlines, and think beyond the hype. Whether you're an engineer, investor, dreamer, or just a weary commuter, the flying car story is far from finished, and your voice might shape how and when it truly takes off. If you found this deep dive enlightening, hit that like button, subscribe for more stories at the front edge of technology, and share your thoughts below. Would you trust a flying car with your daily commute, or would you rather keep your wheels on the ground?